Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, thank you so much for joining together in praying this afternoon and participating through this live stream Mass. There are so many poignant lines in our Gospel reading today. And I'd like to highlight a couple that often express the sentiment of people's hearts. In the Gospel we read, "Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?" Or we also read that Martha said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." These verses express a sentiment, a question that has been asked from generation to generation. If God is really so loving, why does he allow bad things to happen? Lord, why were you not there? Why did he die? Isn't that the question we ask so many times in our life when bad things seem to happen and it just doesn't make sense? In response to these common sentiments of the human heart, Jesus said in the Gospel, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die." Though we may not know exactly why bad things happen, God always wills to bring life in the midst of them. God never wills evil. God never causes evil. But when bad things happen, God always desires to bring life. In these last 3 weeks, the Gospel readings have opened for us a journey of faith. We have heard about the faith of the woman at the well, where Jesus encounters her and leads her to faith in him. We heard about the man born blind, who through the miracle of Jesus could see, but it was not only a physical sight, it was a spiritual sight because he came to faith. We do not live in fear, we live in faith. Panic causes blindness, faith brings light. And today, in the midst of the death of Lazarus, or in the midst of any kind of struggle that we might have in our own lives, Jesus wills to bring life. Some may ask, well, why did this pandemic happen? If God is a loving God, why did this pandemic happen? Though we don't know exactly why, we know that God wills to bring good out of it. And in this our time, God wills to bring life. And so we might take some time just to reflect on how God might be bringing life into our hearts this day. and tomorrow and the next day? What is God doing in our life? Faith can move us from blindness to sight to be able to see some of the things that God is doing. And even if we may not see them clearly, we might see a few signs below the surface. I know right now that some of you are beginning to make maple syrup because the sap has started to run. And this sap, underneath the bark of the tree, the fact that it is flowing is a sign of life, even though it's not visible at the surface. It's not like the springtime when we begin to see the trees bud out and we see clearly that life is happening. But underneath the surface, right now, those of you who are making syrup know that something's going on. And so what is God doing kind of under the surface, deep in our hearts this time? What might be the blessings he's giving you? Let's just take a few thoughts. For example, earlier this year I had a very bad case of influenza, and I think I spent probably the first 4 days in bed, and the first couple days I probably slept about 18 hours a day. Now, being sick certainly wasn't pleasant. But looking back, that's probably the best rest I've had in a long, long time. And frankly, I really needed a good rest. And in the midst of that illness, God gave me a special blessing. He gave me a real deep rest and some extra time just to pray and to be with him. During this time, if work has slacked off for you a bit, do you have some extra time for rest? Can you put the busyness and the hectic pace of life aside and just be with the Lord? This is an important time for us to renew our faith. Let your faith grow strong and turn your sight toward him. Maybe you have some extra time now to spend with family and deepen those relationships. And with more family time, you may even have more opportunities to grow in patience. And what other types of things might God be doing in your life now? Just like the sap flowing beneath the bark of the tree, the Lord is there deep inside of you, looking to bring you life and looking to bring you faith. Jesus says in the Gospel, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. When bad things happen, Jesus always wills to bring life. Do you believe this?